All right, we're off the edge. Episode 10. We're already at 10 episodes, Cam. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cam Stradamus, Cam Lynch. And had to throw it in there this time. I forgot to do it last time. I mentioned where it came from, but I didn't mention your name is now Cam Stradamus. So that's the way
I have the glass ball because I called out one of the Bears picks. They picked him right after we talked about it a couple of days before. Cam Stradamus. I can see into the future.
My guy, he's gonna have to have a glass ball in the back, like a blue, like a fluorescent blue and purple glass ball in the back,
right over here, just kind of right in that area.
magic crystal ball. Yeah. So before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, review wherever you are listening, hearing, seeing, all that. But just want to let you guys know that betonline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered from all your sports wagering needs: basketball, MLB, NHL, hockey, right to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. So Cam, we're going to go alphabetical from where these teams are located in the AFC North, my friend. We are starting with the AFC North this time around. We did the NFC North in the last episode. If you are a fan of any of those four teams, I recommend you check that out if you haven't already. But if you have, welcome to the AFC North draft grade show, if you will. We're going right to Baltimore, and they made a pretty big splash right before the draft. They go and they acquire the services to Odell Beckham Jr., and they make sure that Lamar Jackson gets that Brinks truck. So
thankfully,
we
wanted that. We wanted that, Jake. We wanted that. We were waiting for Aaron Rodgers for that to come through. We were like, anybody who watches sports or football specifically, let this trade go through so Lamar Jackson can get his bag and people can move on with their lives. So we watch some football coming up soon. So happy about that.
I'm with you. I'm happy about it too. We both are fans of Lamar, so happy for him. Obviously, he plays a dangerous position as it stands, but the way he plays makes it very dangerous. So let's take a look at this draft class, which I had mixed feelings about. I think the first pick, you start off, you go out, you get Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. He's my favorite of the traditional top wide receivers out there in this draft. Obviously, my rankings were a little bit different. I had Hyatt as my number one. I had Charlie Jones as my number two. I just loved those guys. But Zay Flowers came in at wide receiver 4 for me. Big fan of Zay Flowers' game. I think he gives you kind of that electricity that I was saying that the Chargers could have hit on, but they chose a guy that I don't think really diversifies the room. I said it. They kind of already have that guy already on the roster, Mike Williams. So the Ravens, they're about speed, my guy. They're all about speed. You go out, you get him. Rashad Bateman ran a really fast 4.3. You got Devin Duvernay. You got Tylan Wallace. You got Nelson Aguilar. You got Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, even the guys that probably won't play, like Mike Thomas and Prochet, they got plenty of speed. Andy Isabella. I mean, just this training camp is just going to be a blur. I feel bad for cameramen because it is going to be hard to capture any of these guys on camera.
I mean, and you think about it, you saw the draft, right? Zay Flowers, as soon as he finished, he called Odell Beckham. So they're both excited. I think that's big time when it comes to Lamar Jackson, giving him weapons. That's what he needs. I mean, Flowers, you talk about just his gameplay in general, Jake. I think you saw the Antonio Brown comp, just the way he moves left to right, the way he stops and starts. So Zay Flowers, a great addition there. And he can play special teams as well. And I know I always talk about this, Jake. You don't want your first rounder playing special teams, but maybe later down the line when he gets to the Odell phase, he can jump in and play special teams. But Zay Flowers, he can do it all. Lamar Jackson should be happy about being the highest paid quarterback in the league, finally, and thank you. And then having a weapon like Zay Flowers come in and support him. So you mentioned Zay Flowers being one of the favorites. He is mine as well. I mean, he's been all over the NFL social media pages. He's just becoming a fan favorite, Jake. And I think one of the better stories coming out of this draft was Zay Flowers going to the Ravens from Boston College. We played Boston College a lot at Syracuse. So a lot of rivalry between that school, but a lot of love seeing Zay Flowers go there.
Yeah, and this is a guy, stands at like what 5'8", 5'9". Doesn't really matter because he plays bigger than he is. I think that's a big thing that shows up on tape when you watch Zay. He's a good route runner, guy that can stop and start. He's got good agility, yards after the catch. He's got it all. But the thing that I need Ravens fans to know is that he's not a gadget guy. Because,
no.
I guess in a sense he can have those gadget plays drawn up for him. But he's not just a guy that is fast, short. I've seen a lot of that. And I just want to make sure that people know what you're getting in Zay Flowers. He's more filled out and he's got ferocity. And you see that, with his tenacious blocking style. This guy's going to throw you to the ground. He wants you to know that he takes blocking seriously. So you just got to love it anytime a guy like that who's shorter. I mean, myself, I'm the same size pretty much as Zay Flowers, obviously not as muscular, but I'm about 5'8". So, to see those short kings, doing their work, got to appreciate it, man. The heart of the lion in that guy. So I'm a big fan of this pick. I love that, Lamar gets another speed threat. And this guy can beat you over the top. He can beat you with the bubble screen. He can beat you with the slant. You got to look out for him because you have, if you're focusing too much on him, you got Odell. If you're focusing too much on Odell, you got Rashad Bateman. You got Nelson Aguilar over the top. I mean, a lot of speed. That's going to be this offense. And don't forget about, Mark Andrews, who is one of the best, tight ends in football. So, look, what I'll say to this, Cam, is that we talked about a little bit. I see a little Antonio Brown in Zay Flowers. I know you agreed with me last time. I think the Ravens got the closest thing in the draft to Antonio Brown.
Yeah. And with them, with Hollywood Brown leaving, right? Antonio Brown's cousin, you get Zay Flowers. So you see the lineage there. Someone in that front office enjoys the way Antonio Brown plays, loves the way Hollywood Brown plays, and also Zay Flowers, that type of player, that 5'9", feisty you mentioned, can block on the edge. And Jake, I bet you put these guys on special teams, they'll go and tackle somebody, right? Put them in as safety, they'll go and tackle somebody. These guys, they can do pretty much anything for the team. So having a guy like Zay Flowers catching the football on the other side of Odell Beckham, that's what you want. So
can return too. So, you're talking, I'm not saying I'd want him to. I invested a first round pick in him. I got a 5th-year option. Yeah. But hey, I got a 5th-year option. So if it doesn't work out, I guess, whatever. All right. So Zay Flowers, we both really like the pick. What do you think about Trenton Simpson? Because they didn't have a 2nd rounder. They get Trenton Simpson with the 86th pick, the linebacker out of Clemson. You're a linebacker guy. When I watch Trenton Simpson's tape, he's one of the best linebackers in this draft. I think he's better than the Lions linebacker that they, in my opinion, a little bit reached for. This is better value. Regardless if you like Simpson or not, this is very good value from Harbaugh's crew. I think this is a really nice job by the Ravens to go out and we're going to get the best player available, probably on their board at this point. 86, Trenton Simpson is a 2nd-round talent.
Yeah, 6'2", 235, ran a 4.43. That's, Jake, that right there is just dangerous in itself. You just talk about his numbers there. And then playing at Clemson, he playing at a high clip at all times, right? Clemson is always, when it comes to the playoffs, they're always in the playoffs, either in a bowl game or a championship. So to have a guy with this caliber, going to a team like the Ravens is exactly what they need. So I like it a lot with Trenton Simpson, having him come in and fill some holes up, right? Fill some holes up and chase down that football. When you talk about a 4.43 speed linebacker, that's guys getting faster, Jake, at this point. I'm just seeing these numbers and guys are just getting faster and faster. So a guy like Trenton stepping in for the Ravens and getting the ball back from Lamar, that's it. Any defensive guy right now for the Ravens or just for any of these teams with a premium quarterback, just figure out how to get that football back to the guy, behind the center, so he can score some touchdowns and win you some football games. So a guy like Trenton Simpson, any linebacker, to be honest, out of Clemson, are high caliber linebackers. So I love the pick there in Trenton.
Yeah, no, I think when you look at the linebacker room, it's stacked. You got Roquan Smith, you got Patrick Queen, you got Malik Harrison. Now you had Trenton Simpson in there. So, I think when you add a guy like that to that defense, now you have some flexibility, right? Yeah. I feel like the Ravens play more of that like 4-3 style defense. So, you also have Tyus Bowser, right? You got that rush edge somewhat. They're kind of a multiple defense, I would say. So, with Trenton Simpson, this is the best player available pick, and some will say, why are you at another linebacker here? Gives them flexibility in those negotiations, my guy. It does. So, I mean, I think that's fair to say. Now moving on, Tavius Robinson, 124. Did you mention him as a sleeper? I thought you did, but I could be mistaken it for another player.
Yeah, it might be a different
probably
one.
Jalen Jones. I think probably.
Yeah, there you go.
I think Tavius Robinson shows up on tape. I had him as a late, day 3 guy, but I like the player. I just think this is a little early. I don't know if I would pick him here.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's 6'6", 257. So a little light, Jake, want to be a little bit heavier. But hey, like you said, they picked him at the end of the day. It seems like they're beefing up their defensive players when it comes to the Ravens. Like I said, if you get signed to play defense here, get Lamar the football. And so that's really what Robinson's going to be tasked for is really just getting that football. I know when it comes to his pass rush, that's something that we want to increase. Just that arsenal when it comes to his different moves. Sometimes he can be a little bit linear, so we want to have him be a little bit more dynamic in his pass rush. But when it comes to the Ravens, just in general, you got a linebacker behind him and Trenton Simpson who can run to the football, right? And you got a guy like Tavius. So playing football in the Ole Miss SEC ball, you're battling each day, and so to get a guy like that to come into the Ravens. And just apply that experience that can be a win-win only for the Ravens. So I like it there in Tavius Robinson. And then I know, for the Ravens, they got some cornerbacks as well. They got some more defensive guys. So it seems like it was a balanced draft there for the Ravens, Jake. Nothing too crazy. Of course, you got Zay Flowers, but also, some picks that are kind of just right there, right what you needed. And I think the Ravens did a great job. Like I said, just finally locking in Lamar. That was the story of the draft, really, is locking in Lamar. So now they kind of get guys in who can help support Lamar Jackson. So I think Robinson will be able to come in and, like I said, get that football back for Lamar.
Yeah, and in the 5th round, they go and they add Caillou Blue-Kelly, 157, really smart, instinctive quarter out of Stanford. I had a 5th, 6th round grade, late 5th, early 6th. So this is about where I expected him to go. But I think the big one that stands out, Andrew Voorhees definitely adds something for fans to be excited about for the future. So that's really good news. I'm happy for him. As a guy that watched him on tape, I thought he could play tackle or guard. So you get that versatility in that room, and he can redshirt this year. Obviously, he's probably going to have to, but you have guys like Ronnie Stanley, you have Ben Cleveland, you have Tyler Linderbaum, who they got last year in the 1st round, Zeitler, Morgan Moses. I would have thought they would go out and get maybe an offensive tackle to compete with Morgan Moses, but I don't mind sticking with the, just the veteran, I know what he is type of guy at right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, my man Jake Voorhees, he had 38 bench press reps at the combine. Like, come on, man, that's Jake. So when I had a chance to do the bench press, I did about 29 or so, right? And that's a lot for a linebacker, but to have an offensive lineman do 38, that means that man's packing a punch. So, we talked about his injury there. That is unfortunate, but the fact that he got cleared, that's a blessing. And he put up 38 on the bench press. Like, a fast 40 is great, but a guy that strong can't be ignored. So you have to Bleav that he's going to attack his rehab, right? If he attacks the weight room like that, he's going to attack his recovery like that as well. So, the Ravens should be confident that he'll be able to bounce back and get things going there. So, Voorhees, he's going to be able to recover. You mentioned having that red shirt type year, so he'll be able to bounce back and get things moving along. So I like the pick there in Voorhees. We're going to probably call him the strongest man in the draft, because I don't know if anyone else has benched 225 38 times. So that's really dang impressive.
And the fact that they get him in the 7th round, it's exactly where you want to get him. There's no risk, a lot of reward there. I mean, guy that a lot of people saw was the 2nd round talent, and I think it's going to be a great pick. I think it's going to pay off dividends. I trust the coaching staff over with the Ravens. They got a good, number of guys that are developing in that offensive line room. Was a big fan of Ben Cleveland, who they drafted in the 3rd round a couple of years back. So Yeah, I'm a big fan of this pick, and overall, I'm going to give the Ravens a solid B. I think really what it comes down to is when you look at the draft. Obviously, you have to keep in mind they gave up that pick that they did for Roquan Smith, but I love the Zay Flowers pick. I like the Trenton Simpson pick a lot. Tavius Robinson was a little high. Caillou Blue Kelly was right about the same, I would say, like where I would expect him to go. Lalu, who I'm not even going to try to pronounce, out of Oregon, the tackle. I don't really know too much about. I mean, I think he's a solid player from what I've seen. And then Voorhees was a great pick. So I'll give it a B. I feel like it could have been stronger, but it wasn't a bad draft by any stretch. And I think maybe I would give it more of a B plus just because of the trade with Roquan Smith. I think that's fair. So I'm gonna stick with B plus.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna bump it up to a B plus as well, right? You talk about Roquan, you got Odell and Lamar. Like you might well bump it up, might as well bump it to A, Jake, right? The way
I'm
they
not
played
quite
their
doing that.
yeah, you can because it is a draft, right? We're not talking
Yeah.
about their off season. Their off
Yeah.
season, they might have won the off season, but for this draft specifically, I'm gonna give them a B plus. You mentioned the Roquan trade, and then the Odell and Lamar. They did it the day before the draft, so that's a big deal. Like I said, it was one of the bigger stories out of the draft, seeing Lamar get the most money there. So yeah, give him a B plus. Great job, Ravens.
So now we move on to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are a favorite of mine to be in the Super Bowl. Okay. I think they're a very, very good team. I love their coach, Zach Taylor. I Bleav in that team. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at what Zach Taylor's done, bad first year, really good turnaround, and they're a force to be reckoned with. And I think they got better in this draft, Cam, because man, oh man, getting our guy Miles Murphy out of Clemson. The big knock on him is that people thought he wasn't getting much better. Well, here's the thing. I said, I know Clemson is this, top program, but I said maybe the coaches aren't doing a good enough job that the NFL coaches will be able to attack. That's the first thing. The second thing is he's still really darn good for not, being, not getting much better, right? But he's a crazy athlete. He's built for, that position. And when I look at Miles Murphy, I'm like, I thought this guy could go in the mid first round. So to see him go here at pick 28, the fact he was still available was a little surprising to me. I thought it was another one of those rich get richer moments. And then you go out in the second round and you get DJ Turner out of Michigan, who's the fastest corner in this draft. He ran a 4.2. So you're going to have that speed on the outside. And I mean, hey, when the Ravens are adding speed, you just add Zay Flowers. I'll take your Zay Flowers and raise you with a DJ Turner, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. So, not to say that teams only draft based on what their opponent's doing, but hey, I don't think it's unheard of. And DJ Turner to me was by far the best corner available at pick 60. So I love that pick for them. I love DJ Turner's game, the ball skills. He's more of a separator than he is a ball hawk, but I think he's got a low key amount of ball hawk in his game. Like I think he'll be a better NFL pro. I really like those two picks, Cam, a lot to start off, just looking at those two.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the man ran a 4.2, Jake. Like, how much faster can you get? I mean, might want to run a 4.1, but like at that point, you might as well sign up for the Olympics. But just the fact that he ran a 4.2, forced 14 incompletions, right, while he was playing at Michigan, that's excellent. Sign him up for my team any day. And at the end of the day, he's tasked with getting Joe Burrow the ball back, right? Even Miles Murphy as well, right? You sign a guy up like Miles Murphy, who 6'6", 250 something, to get the ball back, right? We saw it. You just mentioned how you feel like he hasn't produced and hasn't taken his game to the next level. Well, I'm sure in the offseason, Jake, a guy like this is going to go to that Aaron Donald pass rush camp, right? And figure it out. And figure it out. And we talked about this too. Just sometimes when you're in college, you use what you have, right? The resources you have your coaches, and that's all you can really do. You make sure you're working out, you make sure you're training and doing what you have to do. But it's hard to turn that next level. So like you mentioned, he'll go to the NFL. He's not going to have any school, right? So he'll be able to work on some of those pass rush skills and some of those small things that he needs to turn the corner as an elite player in the league. But going back to DJ Turner, 4.2, Jake, that's it, right? 4-2, throw the hands up in the air and call it a day. I do know that he allowed, 46% of the passes that were thrown his way. So might need to tighten up a little bit on that. But the guy's a burner, Jake. That's straight speed. And I love to see that for a guy like, Joe Burrow. That means Joe Burrow, he's going to have a long day in practice. Joe Burrow is, right?
It's going to make him better.
Fast. It's going to make him better, Jake. And that's only going to be better for the Bengals program in general.
Let's just think about this for a second. Camp, you got Jamar Chase and you got DJ Turner, because DJ Turner in that competitive fire. If you haven't seen it, you haven't watched this film, he's got a competitive edge. He's got this fire to him. DJ Turner is going to be like, hey, coach, why don't I move up to the front here? I want to go up against Jamar Chase. He's going to make the impact in camp. I can assure you the second rounder wants all he can get out of that. They got Cam Taylor-Britt in the second round last year, somebody they really like, Chidobe Awuzie, who was somebody that I really liked coming out of the draft way back when. It's like now it escapes me, but he played with Dallas, made an impact for himself. Mike Hilton is a great nickel corner. So where does he fit in? He just makes the team better. So he doesn't have to start right away. He's a second round pick that can, push Chidobe Awuzie. He can, push Cam Taylor-Britt, and he can push Mike Hilton. I think either way, this guy will find his way on the field. I don't think he's somebody that will have to, move to safety, because they went out and got a safety in my guy Jordan Battle, who I think people are overthinking it, Cam. This guy is a baller. He played at Alabama. He's got the instincts. He's got the captainhood, right? He's got that mentality to be a leader in the back end of a secondary. And I understand he might have been a little overshadowed by Brian Branch, but even Brian Branch went in the second round. So are people sleeping on these Alabama safeties, or am I crazy? Because I look at Jordan Battle and first thought I had was Adrian Amos. Very solid all across the board, well-rounded player, nothing too flashy, just gets it done. And when you get a guy like that at 95 overall, Cam, you're talking about a plug-and-play starter if you need one, and he doesn't need to start.
Yep. And, you got a coach like Nick Saban, coming from Alabama. He's a defensive backs guy. So you talk about Branch, him being an excellent tackler. You got a guy like Jordan Battle who is coming from straight excellence, Jake. And so when you're learning from a program like Alabama, learning from a guy like Nick Saban, the sky is the limit for you. And so, I like a guy like Jordan Battle stepping in. And like I said, maybe he may not start, but he's going to bring a championship caliber to that safety room. And I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but get the ball back to Joe Burrow. Like that's it. That's the only thing that you should think about to get to the championship, right? Because the Bengals have to figure out how to beat some of these teams, right? In the AFC, of course, these guys are stacking up. So, you get some ball players who are smart, who know football, and can get some interceptions and force some turnovers. You're cooking with grease. So I love these first couple picks being defensive guys, because they're like, hey, we got a monster on the offensive side. Let's make sure we get some guys who can give them the ball back. So I love the pick there with the edge, cornerback, and the safety pick.
And I might be crazy, and Bengals fans might call me crazy, and other people that are tuning in on this might call me crazy, but I'll tell you right now, the Bengals got my number 2 receiver. Yes, number 2 in Charlie Jones at pick 131. So at this point right now, the Bengals are just absolutely slaying this draft. They've gotten, in my opinion, 3 day one starters if you need them. And honestly, call me crazy, but Charlie Jones could start on this team. I'm not saying he's going to, because they got Tyler Boyd and he fits the slot very well. T. Higgins, he's probably not starting over, and he's not starting over Jamar Chase. So he is probably going to fight Trenton Irwin, a guy that they like a lot. He's going to fight him for that 4th spot. You got Trent Taylor, you got Stanley Morgan, you got Kwame Lassiter's second from KU. But, at the end of the day, I think that Charlie Jones is the best of the names I just listed, and I think he outperforms in camp, beats out Trenton Irwin, and he's their number 4 receiver. And this guy is going to be a problem because he wants to do it all. He literally wants to do it all. He's not a quicker than fast guy. He's as equal as quick as he is fast. And you normally don't see that from those speedy slot receivers, but he is. And so I think this is another one of those great picks. Can help you immediately. Doesn't have to. And that's a big thing. That's how you know this is a really good football team. When you look at the depth chart and you're like, oh, Myles Murphy doesn't even need to start. Like, he doesn't. I mean, Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. I mean, where's Myles Murphy going to go? Do they look at him as an interior guy? You got BJ Hill and DJ Reader. So no, he doesn't have a spot in the starting role, and that's okay. I mean, we talked about it on the last episode. You know, not Leighton Vander Esch, LVN, Lucas Van Ness. We got the 30 names. It's screwing me up. Lucas Van Ness did not start a game in college. He got drafted, 13th overall? Do you think it matters? No, because at the end of the day, Myles Murphy's going to get a chance to develop behind Sam Hubbard. When the time comes, he will take over, whatever they decide to do. But they have guys that I genuinely like. I like Joseph Asai, 3rd-round pick in 2021. I like Cam Sample, a 4th-round pick in 2021. And I like Jeffrey Gunter, who was, a guy that they got in the 7th round of that 2022 class last year. So you take those guys, you add Myles Murphy to that, and you figure out a rotation, and you continue. Myles Murphy is your project right now, even though he could start if need be. He doesn't have to, because that's what great teams do. We've seen it. We saw it with the Rams. Most of the guys that they're drafting when they were the Super Bowl caliber team, those guys aren't going to play many, reps, Cam. They know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I think the Cincinnati Bengals here, they're getting a class full of guys that are like day one ready, can start, but they don't need them to. And you know what that means? That means that depth just got kicked up to 10, I mean, for real.
Yeah.
I'm loving what the Bengals are doing.
They got an A in my book so far, Jake. You talk about Myles Murphy, maybe not even have to start. We talk about special teams a lot, Jake, and follow me here. Charlie Jones, if he's not going to break that wide receiver room, he's going to have to return some punts and return some kicks. He's not your 1st-round pick, so you might feel more comfortable putting him back there on special teams. But a guy like Myles Murphy, you don't really want him on punt team like that. He's going to get some reps. He's going to learn how to do it just in case. But one of those other defensive ends that you mentioned are probably going to have to step up and play special teams, because Myles Murphy, 1st-rounder, don't want him hurting a finger on punt pro, Jake, or kickoff return. So, someone else is going to have to pass up that spot and definitely play special teams there. But going back to your Charlie Jones, Jake, he's one of our guys, one of our sleepers. We really enjoy Charlie Jones, and I can see a guy like that, like we talked about, contributing early. And if he's not going to be on the starting lineup, hey, start returning them punts, my man, because we've seen you do it and we know you're effective at it. So that's value added, and I like Charlie Jones there too as well.
I like him a lot. Obviously, love the pick. It's an A+ for me if we're going just by pick. I think so far they've nailed it. Now, Chase Brown was the guy they went out and got. Mm-hmm. I wasn't as high on him as the consensus, but here's the thing. There are people that want Chase Brown the 3rd. The Bengals get him in the 5th. And now I'm starting like, okay, this guy can handle 200 carries. He proved that at Illinois. He's just a guy that I think is really going to complement whatever they do at that running back position. We've talked about, what's going to go on with Mixon. They told us, like, Mixon is their guy. They're riding with him. Maybe I shouldn't trade him in my dynasty league. Maybe I should hang on to him another week or so, But for real, though, they got a good-looking, running back room right now. They add Chase Brown, a 5th-round pick in 2023. They have Travion Williams, depending on what they want to do with him. He was a draft pick. They spent a 6th-rounder on him, and they spent a 6th-rounder on Captain America, a.k.a. Chris Evans. Not that Chris Evans, but 2021, they got him in the 6th round. And I just think when you look at that, you see guys that can help you. You see guys that can, be change of pace guys. Chase Brown is the only one, though, in my mind, that, really can withstand a heavy workload. So I like Chase Brown here. I like this pick. And I liked Andre Iosovich. I probably butchered his name, but I've heard it so many different ways out of Princeton. This is what you do in the 6th round. You either go out and get Brad Robbins, so you get a punter, or so shout out to them, they did that. Or you go out and you go for traitsy wide receivers, DBs, edge defenders that are like projects. And when you're the Bengals, you don't need this guy to see the field for like 3 years. Okay, this is just a guy you draft and stash. And I'm not saying that Iosovich can't find his way into an NFL 53-man roster, because I think he can. I'm saying that he doesn't have any pressure to start. He's the guy that you're just like, get the wide receiver coaches together and be like, turn this guy into something. Like, that's it,
Yep. Yeah, put him at gunner, let him go chase some folks down, and if someone goes hurt on that starting lineup at wide receiver, put him in, and he has to be ready to go, right? 6th-round draft pick, someone goes down, you're expected to bust tail on special teams and to come in and expect to know everything on that offense and catch every football that's thrown to you, because that's really important. And then we're going back, Jake, to Chase Brown here, the running back. I mean, my man, behind Bijan Robinson, Jake had 83 forced missed tackles, right? And that's second behind Bijan. So that means he's getting loose, right? I know, the Bengals lost P. Ryan in free agency, so having a guy like that to come step in and make people miss or really running through people, that's exactly what you need. So, Chase Brown coming in, and we talk about the run game, Jake. When it comes to Joe Burrow, he can need to establish that run game to open up the pass game. We talked about a guy like Charlie Jones and these other fabulous players that the Bengals have. Well, you got to make sure that run game is solid. So I love that they're fulfilling these needs. And you mentioned having a punter, right? Not many teams have put in a punter, but they're thinking about flipping the football field. Hey, if you need another quarterback to come step in and throw the football, a lot of times the punters and kickers, they're glorified quarterbacks, right? And so having guys, to have faith in Brad Robbins to come in as a punter from Michigan, 6th round. My man must be dangerous, Jake. My man must be dangerous. So I like the fact that they're taking a shot on people. And hey, Jake, specialists have souls too. Specialists have souls too. They're people as well. So it's good to see some guys come off the board and provide and bring back value to these teams.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Cam. I like Brad Robbins. He punted for Michigan. I'm not going to get too much into the whole punter thing here. And they did go out and get DJ Ivy out of Miami. So he's another guy, probably going to play on special teams. Maybe he works his way into an NFL defense. But at the end of the day, this is an A, Cam. This is a really, really good job. I'll say it's an A+, because you went out and you just set yourselves up for long-term success. This is how you focus. You're looking at sustained success. You're looking at becoming a dynasty. You have Joe Burrow. Why are you trying to win now? You can be sustained and you can build these layers, and that's what they're doing. Myles Murphy, is he going to help you day one? He is. But is he going to automatically be a starter? He doesn't have to. And that's how deep you are, and that's how you'll continue to stay as deep as you are. So I know that there were a lot of people like, hey, why didn't they go after a tight end? They like Irv Smith. They like Devin Asiasi. They went out and got those guys. They drafted Drew Sample in the 2nd round, 2019. These are guys that they liked. They decided, we're not going to do it. Yeah. And so I think at the end of the day, this is how I look at it. They could have gone tight end. They could have gone all in they could have, went out and traded up to get Dalton Kincaid, and maybe that's who they wanted, right?
Yeah.
But they stuck to their board. They stuck to who made sense. And at the end of the day, I think that depth is really going to pay off down the road.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be available, Jake. You got to be available. You got to be ready to go. And one thing we did see is, a lot of, especially in the playoffs, Jake, when folks get hurt, if there's no one to step in and make plays, the team is screwed, right? And so, you just mentioned with Zach Taylor, we trust him. We trust him. We've seen him go the long distance when it comes to the playoffs and stepping into the Bengals organization. We trust him. So if he needs guys to back up his defensive line and he wants to stick with his tight ends, let's do it. Let's do it. You've been in the playoffs the past couple of years, my man. Whatever you need, I trust it. So, Jake, I'm going to go ahead and give the Bengals an A as well. Like you mentioned, that sustained success. Sometimes it's better than winning a championship, once every 30 years, like you want to be able to sustain success so you get butts and seats, right? And then you have more of a probability to win a championship, because when you're doing well, other players want to come to your team and win games, right? Like Odell Beckham. If the Bengals don't have a series of winning over the next couple of years, players like Odell and other attractive free agents won't come to your football team. So like you mentioned, having sustained success is extremely important. But what I will say, having a championship is really nice. So when we talk about the Rams, they're going to have to figure out how to, win this championship and then sustain success. But that's neither here nor there. The Bengals, great job in the draft this year.
So now we got the Cleveland Browns. And, right now, the Ravens, they drafted well. We gave them a B+. I gave them a B+. The Bengals got an A+ from me. What did the Browns do? Well, they traded most of their draft at the top for Deshaun Watson. So that, I mean, that's why they didn't pick until the third. So what? Since Deshaun Watson, I know we can look at value and everything. I don't know how to feel about Deshaun Watson. We need to see more out of him. He didn't look great last year, but it was a while not playing football. And I'm not talking about all the legal stuff. Just in general, as a football player, I don't really know what to think about him. So let's just say, for the sake of it, let's just say he's the franchise quarterback they traded for. So right off the bat, they got their guy. They move those picks. They pick 11th in the third round, so 74th overall. They go out and get your guy, Cedric Tillman, who was what I call the shadow sleeper behind Jalen Hyatt. I am not as high on Tillman as you are. I thought his tape was going to be a little bit better. I think he plays a little too slow for my liking, but you're the Browns. Okay. You have a pretty decent receiver core as it is. You went out and, oh, by the way, one of the other trades, of course, not just Deshaun Watson, but they also traded a pick for Elijah Moore. So I wanted to also put that out there. That does deserve recognition. So they go out, they get Elijah Moore, they draft Cedric Tillman to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper. They drafted David Bell last year, third round. They have Marquise Goodwin. So they have a good receiver room. Where are you on this pick?
Cedric Tillman, Jake. I mean, they got him in the third round. I like it. I like it. Like I said, he's a speed guy. He can run, right? He's a big boy, so he can jump up and catch that football, right? I think red zone threat when I think of Cedric Tillman. So if he's able to support Deshaun Watson, like you mentioned, if he's their starting quarterback, let's give him some weapons, right? And we mentioned this, but when we look at the draft, depending on who teams pick first, you're understanding, hey, are they supporting the quarterback that they have now, or they're moving on? And so it's cool to see them double down. And Cedric Tillman, he's a ball player. You talked about him being one of those shadow players where they're behind, someone else that is getting all the limelight. Well, hey, let's give this guy a chance here, right? When it comes to the Browns, they're always in the shadow, Jake. So it's about that time for them to step out up front and figure something out there with Cedric Tillman. So I like it. I'm moving with the Cedric. I'm vibing, Jake, with the Cedric Tillman draft at round 3.
So then they take Siaki Ika or Siaki Ika. I don't know how to say his name. I apologize. But he is a defensive tackle from Baylor. So you add him, and they already have Dalvin Tomlinson. They have Jordan Elliott. They go out and they obviously they have Tristan Hill, Maurice Hurst, Perion Winfrey, the 4th round pick from last year. So they're really beefing up that defensive front, which I can't say is a bad idea. I thought Ika could have gone in the 2nd round. So I actually like this pick a lot. Then they got DeJuan Jones, who is this record-breakingly huge offensive tackle. He's almost 400 pounds. He had a really, really good, really good Senior Bowl. I had questions. I guess he showed up to the combine just lazy or over. I forget what it was, but basically, DeJuan Jones at the end of the day is not a bad option for the Browns. If you're looking for a guy to plug and play, I'm not going after that archetype. Nothing against him. Almost 400 pounds. That's a very niche archetype, Cam. But when you're the Browns, you drafted Jedrick Willis, you have Joel Bitonio, Ethan Pochik, you got Wyatt Teller, and Jack Conklin. You are good. You have one of the best starting 5 offensive line in the National Football League, if not the best. So I don't mind them adding some depth behind a Jedrick Wills. They also have Joe Haig, right? They have James Hudson III from last year's 2 years ago, 4th round. So I like this because in the 4th round, I mean, people had him in the 1st, people had him in the 2nd. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, I want to see him scare people at coin toss. Right at the end of the day, I mean, this guy is huge. So you get a guy like, hey, step out there, take the coin toss, and just smile at people and let people know, hey, this is what you're going against. And you mentioned his size, Jake, almost 400 pounds. That's insane. So, and we also talked about it as well. Who you draft, it shows who you're doubling down on. So if you get one of the biggest guys in the draft to block for your quarterback, that means they believe in Deshaun Watson. So I like to see that. It's more of a nod to say, hey, we want this guy. We know he's been through a lot, but we're sticking by him. So to see the biggest bodyguard that you can get to protect your quarterback, I like it. This Dewan Jones, when it comes to being able to move, Jake, right? When you're that large, it's tough to move. When your wingspan is about 89 inches, it's tough to do a lot of things. So, you know, it's going to be on the training staff to figure out, hey, let's figure out how to get you to bend a little bit more. Maybe that's, some yoga on the weekends or just certain things, but figuring out how to
Non-negotiable
get him
yoga.
non-negotiable. We got to get that body to bend, buddy. So, hey, figure out how to get that done. And I'm sure Jake, when it comes to just the NFL in general, they get large guys. He just happens to be one of the largest. So figure out how to get him to move, to bend, and yeah, have him walk around with Deshaun Watson everywhere he goes. I love it. And like I said, it's you're doubling down on your people. Coming from Ohio State, blocking for CJ Stroud, he knows his job's important, right? Being that big, he knows he's gonna have to be able to, watch his diet, being able to move fluidly on a consistent basis, because this is the NFL, this is not Ohio State. And so, him having that experience, taking it to Deshaun Watson, I like what it's looking like, Jake. So, hey, let's see what the big boy can do at the NFL.
We know what this guy can do coming up next. This is our guy right here, Cam. This is both of our guys. All right. This is Isaiah McGuire, who's going to be playing defensive end out of Mizzou. He's going to be behind Obaniah Okoronkwo. He is going to, who you played with, and and he's going to be on a same, in that same room with Myles Garrett. I love this pick. I mean, I had to stop myself because, obviously, yeah, but I love this pick for real. I think that Isaiah McGuire, when you look at him as just, a guy that is one of the best block deconstructors in the draft at edge. He fits, I think, 3-4 outside linebacker, but I think he was a perfect fit for a 4-3. Just that overall body. He was a captain, so Captain Cam, you love that. But I mean, for real, he's great in the run game. He takes ownership in that, but he can rush the passer. Like, this guy has pop behind his pads. Like, he's gonna make you know it. So I mean, this is my favorite pick that they had made at this point. This is an absolute A+. Should have gone probably early third round, maybe even second.
Yeah, this is my favorite, Jake. I'm gonna double down on that. Isaiah McGuire. We talk about sleepers. He's our top sleeper. We talk about the Bleav in Rams podcast, and the Rams, they need a rusher as well. He was one of our top guys too. So to see that the Browns got him, the fact that they have Myles Garrett, who you could say could be a Hall of Famer at this point, right? Maybe a walking Hall of Famer. So to complement that with a guy like Isaiah McGuire is next level. We just talked about this. A guy like Isaiah McGuire is going to be able to teach guys like Myles Garrett a trick or two, right? Myles Garrett is this all pro everything, Hall of Famer, X, Y, and Z. But a guy like Isaiah McGuire, I Bleav, is that skilled where he'll be able to step into the room and Myles will be like, oh, I see how you did that there, right? When you watch Isaiah McGuire's tape, you see him, just putting a clinic teach tape on some of these offensive linemen, just the way he punches people, right? He puts his hands in their chest, he extends, he rips them down, like things that you could do to like your little brother or your sibling when you're playing around. He does that to grown men on the football field. So, Isaiah McGuire playing in the SEC, we talk about this a lot of times, Jake, but most of these people that got drafted in this NFL draft are coming out of the SEC. So he's seen these players, right, when it comes to being on the defensive side. So bringing that caliber to the Browns, it's exactly what they need, Jake. So you mentioned it being one of the favorite picks for the Browns. They're definitely going to move up a grade for me for getting Isaiah McGuire. So shout out.
So I thought it was interesting that I went with your guy Dorian Thompson-Robinson, another one of your sleepers that you had mentioned. In the 5th round, they went and got Cam Mitchell, who I think is really underrated, Northwestern corner. I thought he was underrated. I didn't think he'd get drafted. I thought he should get drafted, but I didn't. Then a team picks him in the 5th round, so good for him. Luke Whippler, who had like 2nd round grades from people I wasn't as high on, but in the 6th round, I gotta say, Cam, this Browns draft, it's pretty darn good. I mean, I think at the end of the day,
it's a get to Ohio State guys too, Jake. That's people don't realize that, but when you're playing with your guys, like it takes your game to a different level, right? Especially being a center. You can look out to your left and see the biggest man on the football field. That's just only going to increase people's will, right, to go dominate the next person. So like you mentioned, the fact they got him in the 6th round, they're thinking. They're using their nuggets there.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dorian Thompson Robinson is a guy that I think he's going to outplay Kellen Mond for sure. I think he'll win that 3rd quarterback job. Josh Dobbs has too much starting experience, which is just any starting experience in the NFL over DTR. So I think DTR is looking at a 3rd, probably will make the roster, because if you draft a guy in the 5th round, then you're hoping he's going to make the roster. 6th and 7th, okay, maybe you're looking practice squad guy, keep him close to the vest. But no, I think 5th round kind of seals it. I mean, and he was the first 5th round pick that they made, in the 40 to 42. So this draft to me, very good. When you include the fact they got Elijah Moore, I won't include Deshaun Watson. I don't think that's necessarily fair, but Elijah Moore, like, that's the trade that they made for this year. And I think to get Elijah Moore, to get Cedric Tillman, Ika, Jones, McGuire, DTR, Mitchell, and Whippler, I would say A-, Cam. I thought it was a really good draft haul for the Browns, and this made them better.
Yeah, no, I like the A-, Jake, and I think what people don't realize is just the trades they have beforehand to set themselves up for success here. That bumps him to an A, so I agree with you. And then DTR as well, I think he'll make the team. He's all Pac-12 everything, broke a lot of the records at UCLA, so I can see him competing, right? He might have the notepad in his hand come game time, may not dress out, but I think he's going to get a valuable experience just for the people that you mentioned that are in front of him. Let's see how things go. But Browns, A for me as well, A- for me.
All right, so next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, Cam, I love their draft. I don't even think we have to spend that much time on it. No offense, Steelers fans, it's a good thing. This is a fantastic draft from the Steelers. A+ for me. I'm just going to say it right out of the bat. A+. Yeah. We talked about the pick swap. I told you it was going to come back to hurt the Jets. Well, Patriots gave him a deal. Call him up. Take Broderick Jones. The Jets want him. Let's make our opponent, our rival, worse. And the Steelers are like, all right, bet. And they traded up, and they took Broderick Jones to protect their young stud quarterback, Kenny Pickett. And they got Joey Porter Jr. to go to an organization that Joey Porter not only played for, but at one point, I don't know if he still is there, but he was the linebacker coach under Coach Tomlin. So, you keep that guy close to home. And then Keanu Benton, an absolute stud in the trenches out of Wisconsin. You get him in the 2nd round. They had 2 2nd-round picks. My guy, they turned Chase Claypool, they turned him into Joey Porter Jr. I think they won that trade. I know Bears fans, they've been really nice to us on here. I'm not trying to trash the Bears, but they won that trade, man. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Chase Claypool, great guy, great receiver, but Joey Porter Jr., I mean, that was a story of the draft, Jake. I know Deuce Vaughn now with the Cowboys, Jake. Now, that might have been a little bit extra special, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Cowboys. But the Joey Porter Jr. piece, I saw a picture with Tomlin and Joey Porter Jr., the picture with his dad, like keeping the legacy alive. You got to love it, Jake. It was one of the better stories. I know with the Texans, they had a crazy trade at the beginning. I thought that would be the story. Like, oh, the Texans living on the edge here. They're off the edge a little bit. But then you got Deuce Vaughn, you got Joey Porter Jr. So love that story of the draft. And, yeah, I mean, Joey Porter, arm length, insane, very physical about the line of scrimmage. He's going to cause some problems. So I love it. Steeler Nation, like you said, A+ there.
Darnell Washington, man, that guy's like an offensive lineman playing tight end. I mean, falling to 93rd overall because of medicals. At that point, the talent outweighs the medical concern if you're in that position. Mm-hmm. I know some teams were trying to kind of change their approach. They desperately needed to hit on all their picks, and they couldn't take those risks. I think the Steelers can, because if he works out, you have Pat Freiermuth. You have Zach Gentry. You fit him right in there. I think he is obviously an upgrade over Gentry, but they also drafted Connor Hayward, 6th round. So last year, in my opinion, the Darnell Washington the Washington pick makes it such a huge draft at this point. Then they pick Nick Herbig, who has, first off, a Wisconsin guy, Wisconsin linebacker. All right.
Yeah.
Hear me out, Cam. Wisconsin linebacker going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last time that happened, well, that was TJ Watt. We know how that worked out. So Nick Herbig gives you, that edge juice, but he's also a linebacker. And whether he plays inside backer, they want him to rush outside, they'll figure it out. He can start potentially over Landon Roberts, or he could be a situational pass rusher, but you're giving, some serious juice off the edge. You're giving versatility there. You go out and you get Corey Trice, man, 7th round. This is one of the steals of the draft. I'll just say it right now. The guy is built. He's 6'3". He ran a 4.4. Like really, really exciting prospect to get in the 7th round. You just don't see guys like that fall this far. And then Spencer Anderson, they go and they grab a guard to add some versatility. Can also play center. Mason Cole's there, James Daniels there, Isaac Sumalo's there. So you've spent money on those picks, those pickups, and then Kevin Dotson, Kendrick Green, Ryan McCollum, and Trevor Downing they added in UDFA. You add Spencer Anderson to that room, and you're like, okay, all right, Steelers, you got depth, you got guys that can start right away. Everyone should be very excited about this team, because I really feel like, this team, it was already turning a corner. You saw the way Kenny Pickett play at the end of last year, the way he stepped up, the way he's looked in clutch moments. He might be in a lot of clutch moments, because this team might be playing in a playoff game very soon.
Yeah, and then going back to Darnell Washington, Jake, I mean, he played at UGA, got a championship, right? 6'6", 264, ran a 4.6. I mean, come on, fam. Like, just throw the ball up to him, let him catch it. And think about this too, Jake. We talk about before the draft with Allen Robinson. The Steelers, I mean, can you go past an A+ at this point, right? Can you go past that? But they're doing a great job so far. And like you said, they're going to be playing well into the playoffs with this lineup here. And then even going back to the defensive line piece, you mentioned Nick Herbig coming out of Wisconsin. You got Cameron Hayward that's still there. Larry Ogunjobi as well to back up that defensive line. These guys are going to be stacked. So, Jake, the Steelers looking dangerous. They're looking dangerous.
They really are, Cam. And I mean, it's just Colbert's out, Khan is in, and it just nothing changed. Like, Colbert was like, yeah, I'm the guy. Like, I always draft well. The Steelers always have great drafts on paper coming out of the draft. And I thought just this was no different. And this was a new GM. This is his first, everyone wanted to see what is this guy going to do in his first ever draft class. I was blown away. But hey, that's going to do it for us. I'm going to give the Steelers an A+ grade, Cam, I Bleav.
Same here.
All right.
A+, yeah.
So altogether, I think this division got very good, a lot better all over across the board. I'd say the Steelers won the draft in this division, but that does not mean we're knocking any of the other ones, because this is a good draft class for this division entirely. But before we head on out, special happy birthday to Colts punter Pat McAfee. He's really changed the game for our industry. He's really kind of put us out there on the map, not just you and I, but just any creator. I think it's really starting to become hey, go on YouTube, go on this, go on that, watch these guys. Don't just watch cable. And I've noticed that. And he's an All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, 8 years with the Colts, 127 games, only missed 1 game in his career. And man, if you haven't checked out the Pat McAfee show, he's got the energy, man. Yeah. He's got the energy, and he literally competed in, I Bleav, a WWE WrestleMania match. So this guy is just he's crazy. He's crazy. Yeah. He deserves credit, and happy birthday to Pat McAfee.
Happy birthday to Pat. And you think about players that transcend the game themselves, and also when they retire, transcend the retirement game. You think about your Michael Strahans, you think about even Tony Romo, the way he's transitioned. So I would throw Pat McAfee in there. The way they transition has been excellent, a model of success. Happy birthday, Pat.
All right. Well, that's going to do us for us. Appreciate you guys, and appreciate Bet Online. This is presented by Bet Online. We're out of here. Until next time, you guys take care.